Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Current Art Podcast. I'm Yaching.
I'm Jungeun.
Today, we are talking about several lives. Do you believe in several lives?
I have a previous life, and then I think I'm gonna have afterlife.
I think the first time I'm having this kind of impression or this kind of idea comes from a Chinese methodology.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story. Um, there's several realms beneath the earth, like in Chinese, like believing systems. And in the 10th court, there's a old lady. Her name is Meng Po. So she's serving the soup on the bridge of forgiveness, which called like five flavor soup of oblivion. It's also called like water of oblivion. So once you have drink that soup and you drink that water, so you kind of like forget about your past and purge all the previous sins and knowledge, and you get a permanent amnesia. All the memories of other lives are lost, and then once you pass that bridge, you enter the reincarnation, and you started a new life. Basically, you became another person or another creature in on our planet, like insect, turtle, or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, and
That.
that's the first, I think, concept comes into my mind, which is the reincarnation concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like the Hindu talking about the reincarnation concept. And is it like a story you heard about from your grandma or mother, or you just everyone knows about story in
Oh,
Chinese?
I guess this is like a story that everybody knows about, like about after you were dead or after your life is ended, and where does your body go and where do you go? So I feel like this is a story that kind of explaining that perspective, from the past.
My understanding of several lives is, well, I know about the karma. The karma is in Hindu, Buddhism, and other Asian religion. The Shiki, right? And then Zionism, and they are talking about similar concept, but in Korea actually have that too. So it's not just exactly the name of religion, but it's in shamanism also has that
Yeah.
concept of like several
Mm,
lives, and we are more focused
mm,
on individual, not individual achievement. We're more like you are very effective to others, like responsibility, and then kind of like a moral of like kind of social reaction. It will affect to next life. That's my
yeah.
understanding of the several lives. So it's not
It's
about the like success, my success life in this what I'm having right now. Um, I'm more of like I want to have more of influence to like a goodwill. That's yeah, that's my understanding.
So today we are going to introduce a very renowned German artist, Joseph Beuys, who was born in
Uh-huh.
12th of May 1921, died in 23rd January 1986. German artist, teacher, performance artist, theorist, whose work reflected concept of humanism, sociology. He was also a member of a Dadaist art movement, Fluxus.
Right.
And today we are going to introduce a performance work he did called How to Explain Pictures to a Dead.
Hair. Well, I'm just gonna just describing what he looks like. He was wearing the gold leaves and the honey cover with his head, and then he actually holding dead. rabbit, big rabbit. So it's I think it's a different type of rabbit. It's huge one, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very looks shamanistic.
And then at the beginning of the performance, Boyce actually locked the gallery door from inside, so the audience could only observe from the window, like what he is doing.
Mm,
And he has hold this rabbit and explaining to this rabbit about art for like 3 hours until he eventually let the audience come into the room.
mm, yeah. So what's the purpose he does that?
I think what I find it very interesting, there's a very small details. For example, I found in his performance, he always lock himself inside of a room.
Mm,
I remember there's a performance piece he did in America. It's called "I Love America, America Loves Me,"
mm-hmm.
where he was locked up with a wolf for coyote
Co-
for
co-
3 days.
yeah.
He only has a stick and a coat with him. It's interesting that it seems like he's setting up a barrier in between himself and audiences. The audiences cannot come anywhere closer to the performer.
Mhm.
So I also wonder why it's like that.
I heard why he covered the felt during his transporting to the room because he doesn't want to see America. He wanted to
That's true.
focus on Coyote, I guess. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
he's kind of like make a fun of America's capitalism as well.
Yes. And so he was being transferred in a emergency car,
Hmm.
and then he was wrapped and then directly transferred to the exhibition hall. And after the performance has ended, after the 3 days has ended, he was directly transferred back to the car and then sent to the airport
Hmm.
back to Europe.
Yeah.
um
So
I guess is why my question is why he isolate himself from the public. It seems like his work is always very social engaged. One of his very profound concept is actually social sculpture. So he thinks like the artworks can shape the society. So I
hmm.
wonder, is that isn't that mean that you have to be very close to people, like also physically, not only like mentally, but in order to get very engaged with the audience, you have to be close to the audience, you have to be close to the people. So I wonder why he has to lock everybody outside.
Yeah. So yeah, he was kind of like wanting to engage with the people, but it was kind of like invisible barrier between. I mean, it was visible with that room, but yeah, it was kind of like a contradiction. Always kind of he set up that situation.
Yeah. And it's very interesting during the whole performance, like Joseph Beuys muffles the noises and explanation of the drawings to the dead rabbit.
I don't know. He was actually the German army, right, at the time, Nazi, right? So, I think he was kind of like after that incident, he felt he believed in himself.
So we couldn't verify that if he has been really saved by indigenous people. Like many scholars had went back to the where the incident happens, which during the World War II, he was forced to land it on a deserted land, where he was saved by indigenous people by using fat, oil, and wool blanket. And afterwards, those items and those objects became one of the most visited objects in his artworks.
He made a story himself kind of like very mystical, and then he wanted to show this I am reborn,
Mm.
reincarnation. That's kind of imagination wanted to bring it to people. And the rabbit is actually was reborn kind of, in America. The When Easter, they use rabbits and eggs and things because it's the symbol of the reborn.
He says, like the rabbit, it burrows, building itself a home in the earth, thus it incarnates itself in the earth. That alone is important. So I guess it talks about somehow this relationship between the earth, incarnation, and the
Mm,
rabbit.
yeah.
Like the rabbit is always living underground. It has a sort of like connection to the earth, even when they're alive. I think about like how we have been hardened, like our emotion and physical body,
Hmm.
uh, just by living in those concretes, because we are born in such a solid environment, like everything is concrete, and then earth is kind of imaginative.
Hmm.
If you imagine to step on the earth and to touch earth, everything is just so soft,
Yeah.
and it's somehow harmless. And I can imagine like during COVID time, we are earning for connection, some connection towards other people or just towards a other being.
Hmm.
And actually to be able to have that experience, to reconnect with some sort of like a bigger universe, like bigger than yourself and bigger than myself, is actually kind of magical.
Yeah, I think it's very related what you just explained and why people once touched the earth. It's totally explained. And also that boys had a similar thoughts. The earth, the concrete about the concrete is doesn't have the life. So he covered with kind of the in the concrete corner he filled with the fat to give the energy,
Yeah.
contains the energy. So I guess it's yeah, as we are artists, we felt similar, like sensitive spiritual concept, I guess.
And Boy said, so it seems to me honey on my head of course has to do with thought. While humans do not have the ability to produce honey, they do have the ability to think, to produce ideas. Therefore, the stale and morbid nature of thought is once again made living. Honey is an undoubtedly living substance. Human thoughts can also become alive. On the other hand, intellectualizing can be deadly to thought. Like one can talk one's mind to death in politics or in academia. I think it's corresponding to what you're saying, that um, everything is in fluxes. So everything that is cannot move become problematic.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because energy has to move. If something is not moving, it's dead. Like if you like this example, even though you're alive human, but you're not moving, stuck in one place, sitting or laying down for forever, it's basically dead. And
Mm.
I believe all the living thing contains with the wave energy. The wave is which is moving. So
Yes. And in our topic today, like several lives
mhm,
also has this moving energy that you talked about,
mhm,
because it talks about what it feels in this life, what we cannot achieve in this life, in next life we can sort of continue,
mm.
that we have another chance, that is never just ended. Life is a continuous movement, it's a constant movement, it's never stagnant.
Also, I have a concept of like a cycle. You know, so we go when it's moving, when it's a wave is moving, go up and down, go up and down. It's not always up, 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 up.
Mhm.
So the as human, sometimes you have in your life there's down moments as well, and then we breathe in, and our chest go up, breathe out, chest down, and we when we get up in the morning and up, and then we lay down for the sleep, and we have birth, we born, and then life goes up, and we our lives down to the death. So it's always cycle. So if if you understand the concept, when you have like that moment, you don't have to be so sad about it because that's a life cycle.
Yeah, I think the most simple and mundane movement, as the Hinduism talks about,
Mm-hmm.
actually is all we are doing, like getting up and laying down again. And, those things, they come to they keep on going, they
Mm-hmm.
reoccurring. And then I think somehow, I guess we have to get comfortable with there are moments that you have to lie down and then you have to get up again,
Yes.
and everything will be all right when you get up again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think during his performances, like each of those things, like bee, honey, gold, iron, they all represent something. And especially the rabbit. In Greek mythology, associated with the love goddess Aphrodite.
Mm.
So it was a symbol of fertility, love, and lust, you know. And somehow I'm convinced to myself that life is somehow back to the earth, back to the simple cycle of getting up and getting down again, getting up and getting down again. And one day we are unable to get up again, so we go back to earth. Somehow
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced to that ideology, but I also realize like how complex the human desire is, like the human social circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
That I realize there are things we want to achieve in the world. There's something called self achievement. There's something called be successful in the world. And I think we couldn't just understand Joseph Beuys like a naive artist and innocent artist was thinking about connecting with spirituality, and then he just got so popular all of a sudden in Germany. But I think in order to achieve certain things in society, that we have to learn the rules of others, and then we have to deal with compromise, we have to deal with our own ambition and own desire. And then we realize life is finite, the time is finite. If I have infinite time, I would have all the time to do all the things, spend all the time with everybody that I like, but I don't. So I have to think about what do I want to achieve in this life with my limited resources, time, and energy. So that is where I find I couldn't be fully convinced by the several lives, because in that case I would just lying down when I feel I need to lie down. I don't need to be in hurry anymore. So that's my reflection of several lives.
Well, because my focus is not self achievement. So if I focus on myself, yeah, it doesn't make sense. If I have next life, I would do just, you know, it doesn't have to be work so hard, right? Because it will be better next life. But the
Yeah,
thing is, the concept of the karma is it's not just you alone. It connect to the different person. It connected to other people's life too. So depends on what you do in this life, and it will it will come back. Your payment will come back. Do you understand?
I just also wondering about when you talk about we are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
So we are somehow responsible for other people's
Yes.
life.
Right.
And for me, I find that a little bit dangerous, because that put us into a group set of thinking that I have to constantly be aware of how I behave in a social situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I think there's like such a pressure on female in East Asian culture. Like you always have to take care of a group. You always have to look presentable. You always have to put other people in priority. For example, during our school time, we learned something, a slogan. Like it said that you have to love your country first, then your parents, than
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your comrade, than your classmate, or than anybody else, like rather
Mm-hmm.
than you. And then they never talk about
Mm-hmm.
love
Individual.
yourself. They
Mm-mm.
never talk about to put yourself in priority. And I think this is something after my adult life I struggled with. I don't
Right.
know how to put myself in priority. And then I realized self achievement is one of the way that you can think about how to plan your life, how
Mm-hmm.
to use your time and resources for your own benefits rather than, for other people.
Right. So I understand. Yeah, it's like it becomes toxic if it's like become that like that beliefs go gone too far, and then it's a strong ideology, and then it makes kind of make a social justice, like judgmental mentality. That's really dangerous. So it's all religions started from the like good will, and then the reason people are fighting over because their belief is the only way. So it's like too far. You know what I mean? There's no between. So it's, yeah, you have to love yourself also, and then you have to love others, because it's not just other people's are not just others. It's part of you, and then it's not
Mm,
you are not just myself. It's like a part of my family and my society, my friend, like my surroundings. Other people will connect with me. You know what I mean? So you have to see the duality. It's a between.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, I understand why you are struggling, and there's yeah, I can't not say this is what you supposed to, but just like I totally understand because I have similar like culture too. So yeah, East Asians are more like it's more concept of group. Like you have to bring the mindset toward to the government or family or some like others first. I
Yes.
don't agree with that too. But
Yeah.
it's not just I'm not talking about that of I have to uh, I want to live my life connected to others. It's not about I'm not really convinced for them. I'm not really kind of like this how to say um sacrifice, sacrifice. I'm not sacrificing for others. My life is important too, but there's between. It's
Yeah.
both. It's duality. So
Yeah.
it's hard
Joseph
to
Beuys was
explain. Yeah.
yeah. Joseph Beuys was talking about the idea of explaining to an animal conveys a sense of secrecy of the world and the
Mm-hmm.
existence that appeals to imagination. Somehow, I feel like the ability to imagine the other side of the story,
Mm-hmm.
if you are the person who believes in self achievement, and then the ability to imagine the several life exists is actually very important.
Mm-hmm.
Like for years, I tried to imagine and to understand why people would commit to religion, because imagination is something, a bridge that we can understand each other. I think the beautiful thing of the world, of the environment that we are living in, is like we can never be a unity. There's always pluralities. There's varieties of thought groups and thinking groups and different kind of ideologies. And I think that's what is very beautiful about that, is like we are not trying to convince one and each other they have to be exactly the same as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we follow rationality, you can always try to debate. You can always try to convince other my thought is correct. If I believe in self achievement, everybody should do the exactly same things that I do. But I think imagination bring us outside of like this stubbornness.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think it's funny that you explained like art to a dead rabbit. It's a intriguing idea, I think.
Earth to the rabbit.
Yeah,
What did I
because
say?
it's completely insane and irrational. Because
Mm-hmm.
the rabbit won't understand anything about art, especially a dead one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Or
there's certain
but,
like
but
randomness
yeah.
in this.
Right.
Like
But
the
boys think it's the rabbit is more open mind. The boys more think about like the rabbit is more open mind than human.
That's very true. I
Yeah.
think this there's a like a satire in this action.
Yeah.
Like is to do something like completely contains the randomness, contains the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the beautiful thing in his work. That
Mm-hmm.
not everything is making sense to all of his audiences, but at that moment is making sense to him. Like for him, like explaining that rabbit is better to than to explaining to a art group like
Mm-hmm.
scholars and artists.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing uh, about that action is what actually he believes in, and then this kind of decision to just go for it, to decision to commit to the complete randomness and
Mm-hmm.
complete chaos is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And now we have to close it. So um, thank you for watching and listening. We see you every Sunday at
10 a.m.
and we are available on YouTube video, YouTube podcast, Spotify, Pocket Podcast, and Apple Podcast. And our Instagram handle is
Current Art Podcast.
okay. So see you next week. Bye bye.